My guest today has built multiple companies, written best-selling books. She's a podcast host and leads a tech platform that helps people turn purpose into profit. But that's not where her story begins. What drew me to this conversation is what happens after survival, when you're forced to re-examine what matters, what doesn't, and how you choose to lead when time is no longer abstract. Welcome to Deals with Heels. I'm Debra, your host. Today, we're talking about leadership after a near-death experience, how discernment replaces urgency, and what it really means to build with purpose without turning that purpose into pressure. If you've ever questioned what you're building and why, this conversation is for you. Welcome, Holly. I'm so glad that you could join us today.
Thanks, Debra, for having me on. Happy to be here.
Oh, Monday for us, not Monday when it airs, but boy, it has been a great new year already. And I am so happy to have you on to talk to us about all of the things that you've overcome and how you did it. I want to talk about a little bit about before your transformation. And the first thing I want to ask is, how did you define success before you got COVID?
Interesting. Well, let's see. Before I got COVID, I had 9 startup companies and not really related when I was raising 8 children. Gosh, life was crazy. And we usually had at least 2 companies, usually 3 at a time while we were even raising kids. And so, to me, success, I would say my answer then would be my same answer now, really. Success to me is happy. If I'm happy, that's success. It's not about the money. It's not about really anything else. Is that if I wake up every day and I'm happy with what I'm doing, and if I'm not, it's up to me to pivot. It's up to me to make that change and take that fork in the road. I am a risk taker. I love change. I know most people don't, but I love it because it keeps things fresh. It keeps things going forward. I mean, I know no doubt I would have been way more successful in my life had I have focused, like everybody else says, on one thing. I know I'll never do that. It's not who I am. It's not in my DNA at all. And so, yeah, as long as I'm happy, I'm good.
It feels like you're kind of that pollinator. I've got all of these, you're pollinating all these businesses and that kind of in my own coaching clients, when they come like that, it's not always about weeding it out. Sometimes it's about finding that happy spot. Which one makes you the happiest and how do you frame your time with that? What really
Yeah.
drove you back then? When you had 8 kids, it had to be somewhat making money. I raised
You
5
know,
kids. I know how expensive that is.
Yeah, it was. Well, and so we combined, full disclosure, my husband and I have been married almost 24 years, and we combined 2 girls and 2 boys each. So 4 and 4. But we did have custody of all of them and we raised them all in the same house. Well, I should say 7 at one time. So when we started, they were 6.5 to 19 years old. And so we had a whole buttload of teenagers and lived about 25 minutes out of town. So just juggling that, trying to do all the business stuff. It was some wild times. Now I don't even remember what your question was around that.
Well,
What did
just asking kind of what drove you during that time. It was super busy. So what
yeah.
really was the powerhouse behind it that was driving you?
I think people light me up. And I was also president or chair of about every organization in this town. I loved having my hands in so many things. I'm not a control freak. Like I can go with the flow. I can change on a dime if it's intuitively there to do that. Yeah. So I think stress definitely was a driver because there was a lot of that going on, but I probably thrived on a lot more chaos than I do now. My life's a lot slower than it was then. I look back and I wonder, was I good at everything I was doing? I was good. Was I great? No, for sure not. Looking back, I'm like, I mean, you could be on the soccer field, 4 kids playing, 4 different fields, and I'm doing real estate deals while I'm on the field, but I'm president because I'm the regional commissioner of 1,400 soccer kids. And I was Rotary president at the time. And there was so much stuff that it's like, was I president? No, not really.
You were thriving on kind of the pressure. I did that too. We blended our families, but we had 2 each. And then I got custody of my nephew late after several of my kids had already left home. So when we got married, ours were 7, 6, 4, and 4. My son and my biological son and my stepson were 4 months apart. And they
Wow.
were 2 when we got together and then 4 when we got married. So I took them all through. So today, because we're in between birthdays on those boys, they are 32, 30, 28, 27, and 24. So I'm like, hell yes, I did it. They're all fantastic human beings, and I sacrificed a lot to raise them. And now it's Debra time, as my audience knows.
Yeah, I love
Much
that.
more focused on my own dreams and goals. And I was very focused on getting everything done for everybody and being a mom and the business and all the things more so than I am now. I want to talk about a little bit about your near death experience, but I want to really focus on kind of how it changed you. What was the hardest truth that you faced afterwards?
That I'm not invincible?
Oh, right. That's a good one.
You really can die? I mean, I was hanging on a thread. So, just a little history for your audience. I was 70 days in the hospital with COVID, 2 intubations, trachea, sepsis, some other life threatening infections. And, like I was hanging on a thread many of those days. So the first 3.5 weeks, I had many out of body experiences. I had a spiritual transformative experience, and then I had this near death experience, which a lot of people would say, well, and all those are kind of near death. I feel like I could tell the difference between each one of them, including a lucid dream, including a nightmare. There was a distinct difference for me. The near death, yeah, I feel like it was almost like I was handed the life Bible of myself. And it was like, wow, who gets that? And it's like, I know the end result. I got to just figure out everything in between. I don't want to waste a day. I definitely don't want to waste my breath because that's what I lost. Boy, everything became different after that. It just, yeah, it was life changer for sure.
What beliefs or expectations didn't survive that you let go of moving forward?
It was okay not to be okay.
That's a big
I think
one.
before I just always, I was never fake. I am about as true as you get. I will tell you things that nobody probably should be saying, but that's who I am to my core. I'm still like that. It's okay to fall apart. I mean, 2 years, the 2 years after, it's been 4 now, 2 years after that experience were the complete, utter, I call it the 2 years of hell. Take every day you've ever had in your whole life, times it by 100, every bad day, I mean, times it by 100. And I was feeling that weight and heaviness every day. I was praying every day. Why didn't I die? Like, why am I alive? Why am I going through this? And I've heard from others that a lot of people have those kinds of experiences and time frames after a near death experience. You're in this perfect, peaceful place, most people anyway, and you come back to this and every relationships were falling apart. It's like I was repelling people when they should have been gravitating towards me because, mom almost died or my sister almost died. And instead of gravitating towards me, I felt like I don't feel like I was pushing them. I felt like they were being repelled. I mean, I'm sure I was doing plenty of it on my own as well, but just really, really challenging. I've never had such challenging times as that. And looking back, you look at all those little lessons that were dropped in there I was shown so many things that I know are for the philanthropy work I'm doing in the future. And we had a situation that was horrible with grandkids and DCFS was involved and seeing that whole system and how broken. I know that I had to see all that for what I'm doing and what I'm creating for the future. How many sons and grandsons can I help, even though it ended badly for my husband and I with my 2 grandsons? It was like, I would never choose that route again. But later you look back and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm a stronger person. That's not what the lesson was. It was, yeah, I'm way stronger. I made it, I would have rather have died, but it's like, you just have to look. And sometimes we don't see it when we're in it. We have to get through it. And you look back and then the gratitude needs to come. Cause when you're in it, the gratitude is the last thing you want to be feeling at the time. You don't feel that
Right,
at all.
It's and I'm sure for your kids and people that were close to you, you were changing, right? And that feels weird when your mom isn't acting the way she always does and she's doing things differently than she did before. I bet they had a little bit of trepidation about that, and it took them some
Yeah.
time to
Yeah.
adjust, and hopefully they did.
And honestly, those conversations are yet to be had. I feel like we're out of it. Uh, Everyone's in a better place. Not every relationship. It taught me that family isn't always blood. I mean, I'm from a very large family. Besides having a large family, we just never really had a lot of challenges, and it was like, wow, you really, when you're at your absolute lowest, you find out who's really got your back and who's there for you. And it feels good when you have, I mean, my husband was great. He's just been so wonderful through the whole thing. And I had a couple really close friends and a couple siblings, but like I felt like everything around me. And I don't know, people read my book, they're like, I had no idea you were going through that. You just survive, you just work through it, you just do what you can, but to have every emotion like that going through your system at the same time, it just, yeah, I don't ever wanna go through that again. Never.
And in real life, that can look like somebody's losing themselves when they're really finding themselves and
Yeah,
need the space to figure it out without people giving expectations to it.
yeah. Well, and feeling, I mean, my health was crap. I had long COVID after I got out of the hospital and was dealing with all kinds of health challenges and 9 doctors. I mean, going from having no doctor, no drugs to 12 drugs, 9 doctors, within, 2.5 months. It was like, holy crap. Yeah. So everything was just hitting me all at once. And it's okay. I think God put me still in the coma. I was in a coma probably about 32 of those days to keep me still so that I would listen. And I think I get relapses for that same reason, but it's taken me now, 4 years in to figure that out. And I'm a little slower than most, but I'm figuring it out.
Well, one thing that I learned from my journey is that if you're not on the path God wants you to be on, your life will be up so badly to get you there. How bad do we have to make it, Deborah, before you will pivot? How long are you going to stand in this bad situation thinking, I must be meant to be here because I can't make a decision when you're in functional freeze and you actually can't make a decision? I didn't know that. So, all of that, and I wasn't dying and it was hard for me. So, it's a huge thing that you came back and rebounded so strong from it. How do you now distinguish between what your calling is from just reacting to that horrible episode? Like when you were finding your way through it, you obviously felt a calling to do something different, but you also were reacting to the people around you and to your own feelings and what's happening. How do you distinguish between those two? If someone's going through that, it's often hard to tell whether we're making a decision because we're called to make it or we're making it because of someone else's expectation.
Yeah. And I think I was reacting so emotionally to everything. I mean, I don't know how I wouldn't have under what I was going through, but no, there was that knowing. I've always had the gift of knowing. That doesn't mean I'm psychic. It's like when people say if you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. They'll say, how do you know that? When you have the gift of knowing, you just know, like without a shadow of a doubt. That's definitely a little more turned on now. I would
Mhm.
say I knew I was gonna push because God told me to do something, and it was like, "Okay, these are just obstacles that I need to get through." I know the end result. I mean, how many people literally can see, "This is where it's gonna be. This is what it is." Doesn't mean it's gonna be easy getting there, but if you knew the end of the story, how cool is that? I feel like I that was, like, my biggest gift. It's like, I don't see everything, but I see what it's gonna be. It doesn't mean I don't have to do all the work in between and find all the right people to line myself up with and do all the stuff that needs to happen to get there. But I think that for me, it was knowing that end result and knowing it. It wasn't like, oh, I can never make it. That's like never even been in my thought process is that I can never make that happen. Well, I'll make it happen because God told me to do it. I'm going to make it happen because I'm going to have a little support, right?
Exactly. And I think that is a really strong statement that because you had that vision of what your life was going to end or when, how it would, your story was gonna you have this vision that God gave you of where you're supposed to go. When I do mindset work and visual training and those, we visualize that future self standing once we're already done. That's a big part of it. And then aligning to it rather than forcing it. Forcing the path, aligning and letting the path happen. And do you think that well, you already stated you didn't think you could do it. You wouldn't have visualized that very thing. So, boy, God found a way to get you that message.
Yeah. Yeah,
What?
no doubt, and I was never, a very good visualizer. For instance, I would do these exercises where you would go 5 years into your future and see all this, and I never could get there, and I always thought, "You're gonna die young." It didn't scare me, I was never afraid of death, definitely not now, but it was like, "Oh, you're gonna die young, that's why you can't see 5 years in the future, maybe this is" So when I find myself laying there almost dying in the hospital, I'm thinking, there's so many thoughts. I'm thinking, is this it? Was I enough? Am I enough? Did I do enough? Did I serve enough? What kind of a legacy am I leaving? Wait, you're questioning all these things and going, huh? Okay. Oh, that's why I couldn't see 5 years in the future. I mean, there's all these thoughts coming in. And so it's interesting that I had that knowing of the end result. I didn't have to visualize it. It was just there.
Right. And you weren't able to visualize it until then. God gives us the messages that we need, or the
Yeah.
universe or spirit, whatever it is for you. If you can calm yourself now without almost dying, you can get those same messages. You can visualize that and see yourself in the future. And if your goals are, I just want to sell more and I want to launch this business, do you see yourself standing in it? Can you feel what it feels like to be all the way finished with it? And I would often say, well, is that what Deborah 2.0 would do? Or is that Deborah 1.0 still trying to invade and change and make decisions the old way of thinking? And I didn't have that to fall back on. But like you did, you had that whole big, horrible experience to say, hell no, I'm not doing things that way again. But I think rock bottom is different for everybody.
Absolutely.
When you're in that space, it's so hard to visualize being
Yeah.
out of it. And it's such a great example of your face lit up, your voice lit up when you talked about having that end result vision of what you were supposed to do. So
Yeah.
it's such a huge thing to be able to do it.
Thanks. I always tell people, my book's called Near Death Shift, and the shift stands for surrender, hope, intuition, faith, and transformation, because that's all the stuff I had to go through to get that. And it's so interesting that I really want people to understand you don't have to have a near death experience. You don't have to almost die to truly live and have your own shift. You can have your own shift right now, today, once you decide you want it.
And I have that your shift framework, and I have a question to ask you for every step. So let's go through that, shall we?
Sure.
The first step being surrender. What did you stop controlling? What did you
Mm.
surrender to and not have to control? Because I can tell you're pretty big into control.
I like to have control, whether or not I do. I think surrender is really I'm so glad it's the first letter of my acronym because it really is first. I think when you get to that point, you have to surrender. Just let go of everything of what you thought you are, or it should be, or it could be. No, I mean, my biggest thing with that is nobody does it alone. Ask anybody that has success of any kind, and I guarantee you they will not say they did it alone. And so whether you surrender to your higher power or whoever that your boss or whoever that is, I think that definitely has to come first. You've got to know, okay, I can't do this alone. I need some help. Okay. I give it
For me, I think it's surrendering and letting go of all of those expectations that I have of myself. I can
Mm.
be very hard on myself, and letting go of expecting perfection and letting go of that. That's really surrendering, is letting all the way go of it. And I certainly am not perfect at it, but that's how I can kind of see myself in that first step. The next step is hope. What did you allow yourself to believe again?
I don't know if I ever completely have ever in my life lost hope. I think that I'm relatively a positive person. I'm a happy person. Like I said, the success is happy. So if I want whatever I want, then happy goes with it. And I think when even though I was going through the 2 years of hell, like I call it, I don't know if I ever completely lost hope. I feel like that was my rock bottom for sure. But I think there's always that glimmer of light. We're all looking for that. My near death experience, I was in some shadowy, icky parts, but those shadows would create hearts and they'd float to the left, which was where the light was in my story. And I think it's that we all, no matter how down in it, dark, deep, we feel like we're in that despair, there's always a glimmer of light. You just have to find it. And I think I always knew that there was somewhere that hope.
For me, I've always been a very hopeful person as well. But letting go and allowing myself to believe in myself, in my own ability to stand on my own and to fill the space. So I I got divorced. I lost my marriage of 20 years, and my kids had all left the nest. So nobody there to take care of. And then I was also caring for my mom, and she passed away. And that was the very end. And even though I didn't have a lot of control over two of those things, and the other one I chose, the divorce, but it left a lot of empty space. And I don't think we realize that we have to fill that space up. And often people fill it up with things that aren't good for them, whether that's food or drugs or alcohol or friends that aren't good for us. So allowing myself to believe in my ability to fill that up with something good and that believe and know I had something to offer through my own personal experiences of starting over in my 50s. You and I are of a very similar age, and starting that over was daunting, but it also brought me hope in a way that I hadn't had in a long time. And that was the belief in the ability of myself to rebuild my life in a way that was meaningful.
Yeah.
So that's how I identified with that step. The third one is intuition. And I want to focus on how it affects how you listen now to
Do
other,
I
to,
always listen? I do listen a lot more. For me, that it helps to have that gift of knowing because that intuition comes a little bit easier than I think a lot of people. So when people ask me, how do you know? That's when I say, I just know. Like, it's not that you can't have that because everybody has that gut feeling. Everybody has intuition. Whether you think you do or not, I guarantee you, if you really, really sit in with yourself and situations in your life, you've known whether to do something or not. And whether or not you've listened is a whole other story. But I think now my answers come very quickly. Just, I think God's my higher power, so that's what it is for me. Whatever it is for anyone else, I respect. But it's like when I get an answer, I need an answer. I think God just knows I need it quick. I don't have time for this stuff. It's
and
like,
you
nope.
trust that the answer that comes is that. And so you listen pretty quickly, it sounds like, when you have,
Yeah.
I
And it's
think
not
you're,
always the answer I want. I will admit that. I don't get everything I want. I wish I got everything I wanted. But it's hoping you get that answer. Whatever it is, I think it's just that, okay, let's just use the surrender. It's surrendering to your intuition that you're going to get the answer.
right, knowing that.
Yeah.
Yes,
And then,
exactly, exactly. I had someone ask me because they would get all worked up, and it was a fear-based thing of, I know this is happening. I know my husband's cheating, or I know I'm going to get fired. I have this feeling. I don't at the time, and this was right, as I listened to her, I had a big thing last year that I was going to listen with curiosity. I'm a naturally curious person, but I move quickly and my ideas are they're so fast in my brain that if I could transfer that curiosity to what the other person was saying, then I could slow down and not talk over them and not anticipate as much. And for me, intuition isn't emotional, right? I'm not reacting to something. It's something that I know. I can't explain how I know it. It's my gut. I know that this is right. And I'm not emotional about it. And I'm not coming from a place of fear. So if there's fear involved and I'm nervous and then I'm reacting and I'm not coming from a place of intuition. I'm not
Yeah.
really balanced and centered and hearing that inner voice. And I believe we've really worked hard to suppress all of our clair senses, right?
Yeah.
All the clairvoyance, all of the clairsensing, all of that. We've worked really hard to suppress it. And I think it's stronger in women, which
Yeah.
is why
I
it's
would
been
agree.
suppressed because they've suppressed us
Yeah.
and our own
Good point.
genuine critical thinking and our spirituality and our connection to the earth and to God in a very different way than the masculine is.
Yeah.
So you're right that people don't know they have it. And we all have it, just like we all have all of our other senses. But I just find that when it's your gut, there is no emotion about it. You just know. Now, you might be excited about knowing, but it's not, I'm scared this is happening. I feel like it might be. It's different than that, right?
Yeah. You could still be scared about knowing something because it might be something new for you, a new adventure, a new career, a new whatever, a relationship. But so there could be, I think, some. It's like it's right though, so it's exciting. But it's like, dude, scared. So maybe the
Yes.
fear and the scared are not really all the same.
Well, I think it's more when I frame something of, like you said it yourself, excitement, right? It's this very similar physical feeling, excitement and fear
Yeah,
and nervousness. So being nervous about knowing something is different than I'm afraid that's happening.
yeah,
I'm afraid somebody's going to hurt me and I know that they could do it, right? That fear base that is reactionary that involves another person.
yeah.
For me, that's really the difference of it. And I answered the question about listening because the listening and being curious, which is very similar to what you said. The fourth step is faith. How does this show up in actual decisions day to day for you?
Think when you have a strong belief about something, it's easy. I always just know it's going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. And I know that sounds so cliche because a lot of people just say that the right time, the right person, they'll show up. But I really believe that. Like that's my faith that that will happen. It's like you just saying somebody creating something negative or bad that's going to happen. They're living in that fear. Well, I'm going to live in something good that's going to happen. Like, no, this is the way I want it to be. This is what I want. Focus on what you do want, not what you don't want, right? It's kind of that faith and
Yes,
fear
and that
are opposite.
old, and I don't know who said it, but it gets quoted a lot, but whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right.
You're right.
So if you keep saying it, then and combine it with actions, now you're really moving forward. But sometimes people just say it. Well, I just
Yeah.
know everything will be okay. It's important to say it. It's
Yeah.
important to also embody it though,
Well, in
right?
the end, you can be going through something or even a faith crisis. You can be going through all that, but in the end, you're like, I'm going to come out this a better person. You're still telling yourselves these positive affirmations, positive thoughts. I'm going to be better for this and I'm going to learn a lot of things from this. To me, that's your faith. It's coming out. And so shift your thinking if it's a negative thought or a positive thought, because we can fill our heads with all kinds of negative thoughts automatically. They're there. Whether we verbalize them or not, they are going on all the time. We're always fighting with the left and the right. And
Right.
so, yeah,
So having belief and faith and hope in the positive future is really important for the
Clearly.
transformation. That's the last step. So when you went through your transformation, what changed for you structurally? We've talked about all the feelings involved in it, but structurally in your life, what changed?
Gosh, just I think a lot of my daily habits, what life looked like structurally felt I'm pretty organized normally. And I was dealing with the COVID fog. So your brain's all over the place. Directionally, I mean, I've been a broker for 20 years. So finding places, with real estate is kind of important. Luckily, we have GPS that doesn't always lead you in the right direction, but like it would mix up things. It's so hard to explain because your brain was confused. And I drove by my house a couple times and I live on a busy street on the corner and I was going home and drove right by my house. Like my brain just wasn't functioning. So structurally, that was like causing a lot of issues. I wanted people to double check contracts because, everything with COVID, when you have long COVID, it's like it caught everything you might have had on fire. So I had a little bit dyslexia, especially with numbers. And so it was like mixing things up more. And so those kinds of things, just giving yourself grace to realize and then asking for help. That's part of the surrender too, is like, "Oh, I'm not a lone wolf out here, that I actually could ask somebody, hey, you know what? I'm second guessing something that I did. Can you just double check that?" So important. Just that there was so much surrender going on, I mean, gosh, in the hospital, I couldn't wipe my own butt. I could do nothing. And I mean, as humiliating as it was, and at that point, of course, I didn't care, but
Well, yeah, I mean,
when I
it needs
was
wiped in.
caring, it was humiliating, embarrassing, and just asking for that help. It's like that's all part of the surrender. And I love that the bookends are surrender and transformation in the shift because to me, you
They
have
go
to pick one
together.
or you get the other.
You really do. And for me, things that changed, one of the things was really I had isolated myself in my unhappiness, and partially for pride. I didn't know what to say or how to talk about how I was feeling, and the other part was I was in functional freeze. I literally couldn't make a decision, and my counselor helped me through all of that, and now I realize, and so I ask for help and I take steps to make myself feel better, which I wasn't doing that before, and it was a big part of my transformation that I went through also. I wanna touch on one more thing before we were getting so close to the end of the episode. Always such a great conversation. And I want to talk a little bit about the responsibility that comes with influence, right? You've been blessed with a lot of knowledge and knowing and intuition that you just know. How does that affect your responsibility to others and your responsibility that you feel towards staying true to it, I guess?
When you ask that, I picture myself running, 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 and that I will finish this race. That's what comes to me. Like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You are supposed to stay the course. Yeah, there's lots of diversions. There's lots of forks in the road that you can take. And sometimes I need to. Sometimes I have to divert and take that other fork in the road. But I think I just picture that. Like, I'm just, nope. As long as I keep going forward, every day when I was working on my health so hard as all the diagnoses were coming in, life-threatening things. I'm like 95% now. I was 70 for a long time. 70 of 100 is not good. And it was just like better's better. And every day it was like, what can I do today to be better than I was yesterday? And then when you have those relapses, 2 years were 6 weeks. Last year was 10 weeks. It was like, I worked through them. I traveled through them. I pushed, I pushed, I pushed. And then I realized 3 times when we were talking earlier about all those things we learn and have to go through the hard knocks. For some reason, 3 is my number. I have to do things and make mistakes 3 times. And then I kind of like, oh, okay, let me figure this out. Well, the third relapse, I finally realized, oh, God put you in a coma to sit you still so you'd listen. You're getting these relapse for the same reason. You're not on course. You're taking that fork in the road and you need to get back going to the course. And it's like I think that's when my health got even more better. Is that a word? It got
It's
better.
it reminds me of those Western shirts that Garth Brooks made famous back in the day, those Mo Bettas. I was mo better. You were mo
Mo
better.
better. Yeah. Well, I'm from Utah, what can I say? But yeah, it just that focus of just staying the course, better's better, and asking yourself, well, understanding when you're off course too. I think that recognition's a huge part of it. And a lot of people I think go through life and never really realize it wouldn't be that hard to make that shift. Let me
If I
just
would
like,
just do it and not expect it just to appear before me. What I really saw when you said that was your resilience and your ability to learn and admit that I'm not going to let it get me sick. I'm not going to be as sick. I don't have to get as bad this time before I see it and can act on it and make positive choices in my life. That was really what, when you talked about relapsing, I was thinking, boy, that resilience that she has is so inspiring. And the fact that she was able to see it, not let herself get as bad as she got before, take steps. I love that. That is such a great message.
thank you. Appreciate that.
And let's go ahead, and I'm looking at my clock. I've got to zoom in for my reading glasses so I can see the little clock on there to see how long we've been talking, because it feels like we just started and I could talk to you forever.
Same.
Tell us how, if somebody's interested in your podcast and buying your books and hiring you as a coach or helping you find real estate for them if they're in Utah, tell us how we can get in touch with you and what you're working on now.
Yeah. Well, while I was writing my book, I came up with number 12 company. Oh my gosh. And I knew I had to do it. It was like one of those, I was just in this great mode. And so I just incorporated a company called International Retreat Association. So out of 2 to 3 million retreat leaders in the world, there's not this hub of an association, which is different than a networking group or a software like my other company was doing. Anyway, so I'm really focused on that right now, bringing in founders, bringing in this whole ecosystem of retreats. And I know I'm supposed to do it. So to get a hold of me, my email is holly@hollyporter.com. If you have any inspiration, you want to send me an email, that's just fine. But I gave a link tree that has every way to connect with me on there. If you share that link in the show notes, that'd be fabulous. And I love hearing from people. You can go check out the near death stories where there's podcasts. If you probably YouTube my name, you'll see some near death ones where I tell that whole story. My book, neardeathshift.com. If you want to go grab that, you can get it on Amazon or I can sign you a copy and mail it to you. But the first part of it is all my story and everything that happened. And then the second part is all the shifts that I made from it, all the learning lessons that I learned from it, all based around like a life wheel. 8 of the chapters are just so much inspiration. I would get my edits back from my editor and I would be, wait, I don't even remember writing that. I mean, that's how inspired that second half of the book was. My story was my story, but the second half just had so much of God's hand in it. And I'm so grateful. And I hope people love it and can learn from it. Thanks.
I am really inspired, and what you're working on now with your retreat hub. I've recently started a company with a partner where my coaching and consulting now lies. Didn't really align well with my marketing agency or my podcast, really. And so when I reconnected with someone from college, we birthed a new company called the Growth Vanguard, powered by humanity. And it is all about coaching. And he is a travel agent. So we're going to have retreats that are involved in it. And so you and I'll have to connect and talk about that when we're getting ready to launch and start doing retreats, because it's in a very beginning stage. We're just launching this month. So it's a really big deal. I'm not really doing anything different than I've always done with my coaching as a part of my media, but it's becoming a little bit more, I think, as I've learned so much from being a podcast host and having all of these great conversations. And I've definitely learned a lot from you. And I'm so grateful for you coming on the show. And I know that my guests are going to really align and get a lot of great info from it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. You ask great questions, makes me think.
Good. That's what we're doing in season 5. We're digging deeper, and I'm so happy to have made it this far. So, with that being said, if this conversation resonated with you, if it challenged how you think about leadership, power, or growth, then my work lives on beyond this podcast in your growth. Through the Growth Vanguard, I work with founders and leaders who want to build businesses that are strong, human-centered, and built to last. You can learn more about that work and decide if it's right for you at thegrowthvanguard.com. Until next time, stand strong in your power, especially when it's uncomfortable. And that's it. We did it. We made it.
Thank you.